Opening. First 30 seconds. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. My own son stood up at a charity gala and decided to auction me off for €1 in front of 250 people. I sat there at table 17 while everyone stared at me with pity. Mateo was smiling at the microphone like he'd just told the funniest joke in the world. She sits at home writing her little mystery novels, he said. Maybe she'll even put you in one of her books. Nobody was bidding. The silence was unbearable. Then a man in the back stood up and said, €850,000. The entire room went silent. A different kind of silent. And when that man walked forward and introduced himself as the head of Amazon Prime Video Spain, my son's face went from confident to white in about 3 seconds. Because here's what Mateo didn't know. What nobody in that room knew. While he was up there humiliating me, someone had been sitting in the back watching everything, knowing exactly who I really was. And what that person said next turned the most embarrassing moment of my life into the sweetest moment of vindication I could have ever imagined. But to understand how we got here, I need to take you back 5 years to the day I turned 58 and decided to stop living for everyone else. Chapter 1, The Retirement Party. The retirement party was on a Tuesday afternoon in September. 33 years I'd worked at Seguros Mediterráneo in Barcelona, and they brought a cake from the grocery store. They'd spelled my name wrong. Elena instead of Elena. I didn't correct them. I never did. People I'd worked with for decades shook my hand and said the same things. You'll love retirement, Elena. Now you can finally relax. Enjoy your free time. I smiled and nodded, wondering what exactly I was supposed to fill that free time with. My phone buzzed around 2 o'clock. A text from Mateo. Sorry, Mom. Big meeting. Can't get away. Congrats, though. I read it twice, then put my phone back in my purse. Of course he was busy. He had important things to do. My son worked at Banco Santander in Madrid, now wore expensive suits, made good money managing accounts worth millions of euros. I was proud of him. Of course I was. But sometimes when we talked, I could hear the distance in his voice, like he'd moved into a world I didn't belong in anymore. I drove home to my apartment in the Gracia district. 1-bedroom, 2nd floor in a building that had seen better days. I'd moved in 28 years ago when Mateo left for university. Wanted something smaller, easier to manage on my own after the divorce. The apartment was quiet when I unlocked the door. I could hear Senora Rodriguez walking around upstairs, the familiar creak of her floorboards. Everything I owned fit in this small space. A thrift store couch with cushions that sagged in the middle. A coffee table with a water ring I could never get out. A kitchen table where I ate my meals alone. I made tea and sat down watching the afternoon sun move across the table. I could see the dust on everything. 58 years old, single mother high school graduate who never went to college. That was my resume. That was all I'd ever be. Andres' voice was still in my head sometimes, even though he'd been gone for nearly 3 decades. You're not smart enough for college, Elena. Why waste the money? He'd said it when we were dating, said it after we got married. I believed him then. Part of me still believed him now. Mateo used to ask about it when he was younger. Why didn't you go to university like other moms? Not mean, just curious. But every time he asked, I felt smaller, like I'd failed some basic requirement of motherhood. The other mothers at school had degrees. The other mothers had careers. I had a job answering phones and filing paperwork for 33 years. I'd done my best. Worked every day, even when I was exhausted. Made sure the rent was paid and there was food in the refrigerator. Put Mateo through university on a payment plan that took everything I had. But my best had never felt like enough. Now he worked downtown, had that corner office he'd worked so hard for, was dating a woman from one of those wealthy Madrid families. And I was sitting alone in an apartment that smelled like old coffee and disappointment. The tea got cold while I sat there. I wondered if this was it now, sitting alone waiting for my son to remember to call, growing old in a place where nobody really saw me anymore. I looked at the laptop on the counter. I'd bought it 6 months earlier, told myself it was for staying connected. But there was something else I'd thought about doing with it. Something I'd wanted since I was young but never had the courage to try. Writing. I'd loved books my whole life. When I was in school, teachers used to say I had a good imagination, that I could write well. One teacher, Senora Mendoza, told me I should think about writing more. You have a unique voice, Elena, she'd said. Don't lose that. I'd never forgotten those words. You have a voice. like I had something worth saying. But Andres had laughed when I mentioned it once years into our marriage. You write a book, Elena, you can barely get through a newspaper without getting confused. And that was that. I stopped talking about it. Stopped thinking about it except late at night when I couldn't sleep. Who was I kidding anyway? I was 58 years old. I'd never even been to university. I'd spent my whole life answering phones and filing papers and trying to keep my head above water. What made me think I could write anything worth reading? Nothing. That was the answer. Nothing made me think that. But I got up and opened the laptop anyway. My hands shook a little as I created a new document. The blank screen stared back at me, the cursor blinking in the corner like a tiny heartbeat. Waiting. I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't have a plan or an outline or any of the things real writers probably had. I just started typing. Words about a woman sitting alone. Then another sentence. They were terrible, I could see that immediately. Clumsy and obvious and nothing like the books I loved to read. The kind of writing that would make Senora Mendoza shake her head in disappointment. I kept typing anyway, because what else was I going to do? Sit here and watch television until I fell asleep. Wait for Mateo to text me back in 3 days with some excuse about how busy he was. Spend the rest of my life being the woman who'd never finished anything she started. I probably wasn't smart enough to write a book. Andres had been right about that. But I had time now. For the first time in decades, I had nothing but time. And that was something. Even if I failed. Even if no one ever read a single word. The sun moved across the table as the afternoon wore on. The words kept coming. Slow and awkward and probably worthless, but they were mine. I thought about Senora Mendoza and what she'd said all those years ago. You have a voice, Elena. Maybe she'd been wrong, but I was going to find out. I saved the document and named it Capítulo 1 Docs. 3 pages of terrible writing. I stared at it for a long time, my finger hovering over the delete button. Part of me wanted to erase it, right then get it over with, save myself the embarrassment of trying. Instead, I closed the laptop and went to make more tea. If not now, and tomorrow, I'd probably delete it. Realize how stupid this was. But tonight, just for tonight, I'd written something. That was more than I'd done in 58 years. Chapter 2, the first pages. I didn't delete it. The next morning, I woke up at 6 like I had for 33 years, even though I didn't have to anymore. Made coffee in the little stovetop espresso maker that had been my mother's. Opened that document. The 3 pages were still terrible, but I added a 4th page anyway, then a 5th. 6 months later, I had a manuscript. 234 pages about a woman named Anna who'd just turned 61 and stumbled into a murder investigation in her neighborhood. She was smart, observant, the kind of woman people underestimated until it was too late. I'd written what I wanted to read, what I wished existed. A woman my age who wasn't just someone's grandmother in the background, who wasn't invisible, who solved the puzzle while everyone else was still looking in the wrong direction. The file sat on my laptop for 2 weeks after I typed the last sentence. I didn't know what to do with it. You couldn't just walk into a bookstore and hand them pages, I knew that much. I'd looked it up online. There were literary agents, publishers, query letters, a whole system I didn't understand. The websites might as well have been written in another language. I spent 3 weeks reading everything I could find. How to write a query letter, how to find an agent, what publishers wanted. Most of it felt overwhelming, like trying to learn a new job at an age when everyone assumed you should be winding down, not starting over. My friend Carmen came over for coffee one afternoon. We'd worked together at Seguros Mediterráneo for 25 years. She was the only one from the office I still saw regularly. "You've been quiet lately," she said, adding sugar to her café con leche. "Everything okay?" I hesitated, then told her about the manuscript, about the writing, about feeling ridiculous for even trying. Carmen set down her cup and looked at me. Really looked at me in a way most people didn't anymore. "Elena," she said, "do you remember when we were 30 and I told you I wanted to learn English? You know what you said to me?" I shook my head. "You said in 10 years you'll either be 40 and speaking English or you'll be 40 and still wishing you had. Either way, you'll be 40. I never forgot that. And now I do medical translation work that pays twice what the insurance company paid. Because of you." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Send the damn query letters, Elena. What's the worst that can happen? Someone says no. People have been underestimating you your whole life. Don't underestimate yourself, too." So I made a list of Spanish literary agents who represented psychological thrillers. 18 names. I wrote a query letter, rewrote it again. Then I sat there staring at the screen, my finger hovering over the send button. Andres's voice in my head. Who do you think you are? I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I sent 17 more. The first rejection came 2 weeks later. I was washing dishes when the email arrived. I dried my hands on a kitchen towel and read it on my phone. Thank you for your query, but this isn't the right fit for our list. I sat down at the kitchen table and cried. Just sat there with soap suds still on my wrists and cried like someone had died. It felt stupid crying over a form rejection from someone I'd never met. But it hurt anyway. Mateo called that week. I almost didn't tell him about the rejection, but I wanted someone to understand what it felt like. I got a rejection today, I said, from a literary agent. A rejection? He paused. I could hear traffic in the background, the honking of Madrid. Mom, I don't want to be harsh, but maybe this is a sign. You're 58 years old. How many 58-year-olds get book deals? The publishing world is pretty competitive, and they're looking for young, fresh voices. Senora Mendoza always said I could write. Yeah, when you were 17. That was 41 years ago. He sighed. Look, I'm just being realistic here. Maybe it's time to find a hobby that's more age-appropriate. Have you thought about joining a book club instead of trying to write for one? My throat closed up. I see. Don't get upset. I'm trying to help you avoid disappointment. Anyway, I got promoted today. Senior accounts team. I'll be managing the big clients now. 6-figure deals. Pretty excited about it. That's wonderful, Mateo. Thanks. Hey, I've got to run. Client dinner in an hour and these things wait for no one. You understand, right? He hung up before I could say goodbye. I sat there holding the phone, staring at the blank wall. My son, the one person whose approval I'd spent a lifetime seeking, thought I was too old to dream. Thought I should join a book club instead of writing books. Thought my life was essentially over at 58. The second rejection came 3 days later, then the third, then the fifth. I stopped counting after the 10th one. They all said basically the same thing. Not right for us, not what we're looking for, we'll pass. By the 20th rejection, I was staring at the delete button on my manuscript file again. My cursor hovered over it, my hand steady on the mouse. One click and it would be gone. I could pretend I'd never tried, never failed. Go back to being exactly who I'd always been. Mateo had been right. I was too old for this. Too late. The publishing world didn't want women my age writing books. They wanted young voices, fresh perspectives, not a 58-year-old woman who'd spent her life filing insurance claims. My finger was on the mouse, ready to click. Then an email came in. The subject line said, Solicitud de manuscrito completo. Full manuscript request. I blinked. Read it again to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Editorial Horizonte, a small press based in Barcelona. They wanted to read the whole manuscript, not just the sample pages I'd sent. A real publisher. They wanted to read my book. I sat there shaking, reading the email 5 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. They wanted my work. Someone actually wanted to see what I'd written. I sent the manuscript that night, my hands trembling so badly I had to type my password 3 times before getting it right. Then I waited. Every day I checked my email 20 times. 30. The publisher's website said they responded within 8 to 12 weeks. I counted every single day, marking them off on a calendar like a child waiting for Christmas. 2 months and 3 days later, another email arrived. Dear Miss Martinez, we would like to offer you a publishing contract for your manuscript. I read that line until the words stopped making sense. Then I read it again and again. They wanted to publish my book, actually print it, put it in stores. My book, the one I'd written in the apartment in Gracia, the one Mateo thought was a waste of time, the one I'd almost deleted a dozen times. I stood up from the table, sat back down, stood up again. I wanted to call someone, tell someone, share this with someone who would understand what it meant. I called Mateo. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice distracted. Hey, Mom, kind of in the middle of something. What's up? They want to publish my book. The words tumbled out. A publisher. Editorial Horizonte. They sent me a contract. Mateo, they're going to actually print my book. Silence. Then, wait, seriously? Someone actually wants to publish it. Yes. Editorial Horizonte. It's a real... Never heard of them. Are you sure they're legit? There are a lot of scams targeting older people who want to be writers. Did they ask you for money? The excitement drained out of me like water from a broken glass. They're a real publisher, Mateo. I researched them. They specialize in mysteries and thrillers. Okay, but have you Googled them thoroughly? I'm just saying a real publisher probably wouldn't want. I mean, no offense, but what kind of publisher goes after first-time authors your age? I looked at the contract still open on my screen, the contract that said someone believed in my work. I haven't looked at all the details yet, I said quietly. Well, that's the first thing you should check. Don't get your hopes up about this being some kind of career. It's probably just vanity publishing with a professional name, which is fine. I mean, if it makes you happy to say you have a published book, that's nice. Just don't quit your day job. Oh, wait. He laughed at his own joke. You already did that. I should let you go. Yeah, I really do have to run. This client call started 5 minutes ago, and we're talking about a €3 million account. Real high-stakes stuff. But hey, congrats on the book thing. That's different. Talk later. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, staring at my contract. A contract from a real publisher who wanted my work, who thought my book could find an audience, who believed I had something worth saying. But all I could hear was Mateo's voice. Vanity publishing. Don't quit your day job. First-time authors your age. He'd hung up without asking what the book was about, without asking when it would come out, without saying he was proud. Just assumptions that I'd been scammed, that this wasn't real, that I was too old for anyone to actually want my work. I looked at the contract again. It said they were printing 5,000 copies. It said they thought my book could find an audience. It said someone believed in me. Mateo just didn't happen to be that someone. Chapter 3, the pen name. The publisher asked if I wanted to use a pen name. I said yes immediately. It felt safer somehow, like I could keep Elena Martinez separate from whoever was about to have a book published. Like I could hide if this went wrong, if Mateo turned out to be right about everything. I spent an hour trying different combinations, writing them down on a notepad, crossing them out. Nothing felt right. Too obvious or too fake or too trying hard. Finally, I settled on M.S. Castellano. M for Martinez, my surname. S for Solis, my mother's maiden name. Castellano for the Spanish language itself, the language of Cervantes and Garcia Marquez. It felt like putting on armor, like becoming someone braver than Elena Martinez had ever been allowed to be. The book came out 6 months later. No book tour, no interviews, no launch party. They printed 5,000 copies and sent me 10. I held one in my hands and couldn't believe it was real. El silencio de Ana. Ana's silence. My name on the cover. Well, not my name exactly, but close enough. The cover was elegant. Deep blue with a silhouette of a woman standing in a doorway, light behind her. The kind of cover you'd see in a real bookstore next to real books by real authors. I took a photo and sent it to Carmen. She called me immediately, crying. Elena, it's beautiful. It's real. It's real, I whispered, running my fingers over the embossed letters. I didn't send a photo to Mateo. He hadn't asked about the publication date. The first week, nothing happened. I checked the sales rank on Amazon every hour. It was in the 600,000s, then the 500,000s. Moving so slowly, I couldn't tell if anyone was buying it at all. Carmen bought 5 copies, 1 for herself and 4 to give as gifts. She posted about it on her Facebook, tagging me, calling me a published author. It felt surreal seeing those words next to my name. Then a review appeared. 5 stars. The title was one word, finalmente. Finally. I clicked on it, my heart pounding. Finally a thriller with a protagonist who looks like my mother. I'm so tired of reading about 25-year-old detectives who somehow have the wisdom of someone twice their age. Ana is 61, smart, and doesn't take anyone's nonsense. She solves the case not despite her age, but because of it. Because she's lived enough to understand people. This is the book I've been waiting for. Thank you, M.S. Castellano. Please write more. I read it 10 times. Then I cried. Not like I'd cried after that first rejection. This was different. This was someone I'd never met, someone who didn't know my real name telling me my book mattered. That I'd given them something they'd been waiting for. Maybe Senora Mendoza had been right all those years ago. Maybe I did have a voice worth hearing. I opened a new document and titled it El Regreso de Ana Doc X. Anna's Return, Book 2. The words came faster this time. I knew what I was doing, now knew Anna's voice, knew the rhythm of a mystery. 4 months instead of 6. Anna was back older by a year, sharper. The mystery was tighter. The writing was better. Sales of the first book kept climbing, slow but steady like a plant growing toward sunlight. The ranking moved from the 600,000s to the 300,000s to the 100,000s. Reviews appeared every few days, most of them from women my age, women in their 50s and 60s who said they'd finally found a character they recognized, who said they felt seen for the first time in years. I read every single one, saved them in a folder on my computer. On days when Andres' voice was loud in my head, when doubt crept in, I read them again. Editorial Horizonte called when I was halfway through the second manuscript. "Elena," the editor said, "we want book 2, and we'd like to talk about a better contract. Your sales are exceeding our expectations." "They are, Nell. You're building an audience, a loyal one. These readers love Anna. They love your voice. We'd like to print 10,000 copies of book 2, and we'd like to increase your advance to €3,500. I had to sit down. €3,500 for writing, for doing something I loved. That's very generous. It's business, Elena. You're earning out your advance. We believe in this series. How many books do you think you have in you?" I looked at the manuscript on my screen, at the stack of note cards on my desk with ideas for book 3, book 4, book 5. "As many as Anna wants to tell me about," I said. Chapter 4, The Girlfriend. Mateo came over for dinner on a Tuesday in November. He let himself in with the spare key I'd given him years ago, the one I'd told him was for emergencies, but he used whenever he felt like it. I was at the kitchen table typing when he arrived. "Still at it, huh?" He kissed the top of my head. "That's nice, Mom. Keeps you busy." I saved the document and closed the laptop. "Book 2 comes out in 3 months. "That's great." He opened my refrigerator and pulled out a beer one from the 6-pack I'd bought specifically for his visits. "Hey, so they're making me senior account manager, youngest person to get the position in like 10 years. Big raise, corner office next month." "Mateo, that's wonderful." "Yeah, it's pretty huge. Don Javier told me I'm on the partner track if I keep this up. We're talking serious money in a few years. Real financial security." He talked about his accounts through dinner, the clients he was landing, the deals he was closing, the trips to London and Frankfurt for meetings. I listened and nodded and asked questions the way I always did. He finished his beer and stood to leave around 9. "Wait," I said. "I wanted to tell you about the book launch. The publisher is doing a small event at a bookstore in Elborn. Nothing big, but they'll have copies for sale and I'll do a reading." "That's really cool, Mom." He was already at the door checking his phone. "Text me the details and I'll see if I can make it. I've got a crazy few weeks coming up." "It's on a Saturday afternoon." "I'll try. Really. Just text me." He kissed my cheek. "Thanks for dinner. I'll call you later." He didn't call later. 3 months went by. El Eco del Pasado, The Echo of the Past, was released in February. The sales were stronger than the first book. It climbed to number 8,000 on Amazon within 3 days. The reviews kept coming, more emails from readers, more women thanking me for writing Anna. One email arrived on a Sunday morning. I was drinking coffee in my robe, still half asleep. "Dear MS Castellano, I am 63 years old. 3 years ago, my husband died and I thought my life was over. I thought I was just waiting to die too, that nothing interesting would ever happen to me again. Then I found your books. Anna is my age. She's smart and capable and doesn't let anyone dismiss her. Your character showed me I'm not finished. I'm just beginning. Thank you for giving me hope. Please keep writing. We need you." I read it 5 times. Then I cried into my coffee. I forwarded it to Mateo with a message, "This is why I write." 3 days later, he responded, "That's sweet, Mom. People are really nice online, aren't they? Glad you're making connections." I stared at his text for a long time. People are nice online. Like the email was just someone being polite. Like it didn't mean my work had changed how another human being saw their life. But I was learning. Slowly. Painfully. I didn't need Mateo to understand. The woman who wrote that email understood. Carmen understood. The readers who posted reviews understood. That was enough. It had to be enough. Mateo came over again 3 months later in May. This time he brought someone with him. "Mom, this is Isabella. He had his arm around her waist, proud, showing her off like a trophy. "Isabella, this is my mother, Elena." She had straight dark hair and wore a blazer even though it was just dinner at my apartment. Designer jeans that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Heels that clicked on my old tile floor. She shook my hand instead of giving me the customary kiss on each cheek. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Elena." Her smile was polite but distant, the kind of smile you give a taxi driver. "Matteo talks about you all the time." I doubted that, but I smiled back. "Please sit. Can I get you something to drink? Wine, water?" "Sparkling water, please. I'm trying to cut back on alcohol. Calories, you know." She laughed, a tinkling sound that felt practiced. We sat at my kitchen table. I'd made paella, the one dish I knew how to make, well, my mother's recipe. Isabella picked at it while Matteo ate 2 helpings. "Matteo mentioned you write," Isabella said, pushing rice around her plate. "That's so sweet. What do you write? Romance novels? Psychological thrillers, actually." "Oh," she laughed again. "Same thing, right? Just stories to keep people entertained." I opened my mouth to explain the difference, but Matteo was already talking about a restaurant they'd tried last weekend in Malasagne, someplace with a Michelin star and a 6-month waiting list. Isabella's hand rested on his arm while he talked possessive. She laughed at his jokes, finished his sentences. She belonged to the world he'd built, the one where I was just his mother, who wrote little books to keep herself busy. I cleared the plates. Isabella excused herself to use the bathroom. When she came back, she had freshened her lipstick. "You have such a cozy little place," she said, looking around my apartment. "Very charming. Quaint. Cozy. Quaint. Words people used when they meant small and outdated." They left 20 minutes later. Isabella hugged me at the door, quick and impersonal. "It was lovely meeting you. We should do this again sometime." We never did. After they left, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time looking at the leftover paella. Most of it was still in the pan. Isabella had barely eaten anything, and Matteo had been too busy talking to notice what I'd cooked. I thought about my mother, who'd taught me to make paella, who'd told me that feeding people was an act of love, who'd died before she could see me publish a book, before she could know that maybe, just maybe, I'd been smart enough all along. My phone buzzed. A text from Matteo. "Thanks for dinner, Mom. Isabella really liked you." I didn't respond. What was there to say? That his girlfriend had looked at my home, my life, my work, and found it all quaint, that I could feel her judgment in every polite smile, every careful word. I opened my laptop instead and went back to work on book 3. Anna wouldn't let anyone make her feel small. Maybe I could learn from her. Chapter 5, The Literary Agent. An email came from Barcelona 2 weeks after that dinner with Isabella. The sender's name was Lucia Vega, and at first I thought it was spam. Literary agents didn't just email random authors, especially not authors like me. "Dear Ms. Castellano," it began, "I've been watching your sales trajectory with great interest. Your books are finding an audience in an underserved market, and your growth pattern suggests something sustainable rather than a flash in the pan. I'd like to discuss representation for your future work. Would you be open to a conversation?" I Googled her immediately. Lucia Vega represented some of the biggest thriller writers in Spain. Real ones. The kind whose names you saw in airport bookstores, whose books got adapted into television series. She had gray hair and her photo-sharp eyes, and the kind of face that looked like it didn't tolerate nonsense. We talked on the phone the next day. She had a direct way of speaking that reminded me of Anna. "Elena," she said, using my real name even though we'd never met. "I can call you Elena, right? Your pen name is for the public, but we should be honest with each other." "Yes, of course." "Good. Here's what I see. You're writing for women our age, and publishers are finally paying attention. Your numbers aren't spectacular yet, but they're growing consistently. More importantly, your readers are loyal. They buy every book. They leave reviews. They recommend you to friends. That's gold in this industry." "Our age," I couldn't help smiling. "I'm 71, Elena. Don't make me feel alone in this." She laughed, warm and genuine. "I've been in this business for 40 years, and I know a real voice when I hear one. You have something. With the right publisher and the right marketing, you could be hitting bestseller lists. Real lists." My mouth went dry. I mean USA Today to start. El País if we do this right in Spain. Maybe even the New York Times if we can crack the American market. But book 3 is going to be the turning point. Are you working on it?" I just started. I'm about 50 pages in. Good, finish it. Send it to me when it's done. I'll find you a bigger house, a better deal. You're worth more than Editorial Horizonte can offer you. I signed with Lucia a week later, my hand shaking as I wrote my name on the contract. She called me the day after. Welcome to the family, Elena. Now tell me about book 3. What's Anna up to? For the next hour, I told her about the story I was writing. Anna was 63 now, investigating a cold case that had haunted her neighborhood for 20 years. Lucia asked smart questions, pushed me on plot points, made suggestions that immediately made the story better. You're a natural storyteller, she said. You just needed someone to help you see it. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time looking at the contract with her signature next to mine. Someone believed in me. Really believed in me. Not because I was her mother or her friend, but because my work was good. I called Carmen. She said I could hit bestseller lists. I told her, my voice shaking. Real lists, Carmen, like the books we see in stores. Elena, Carmen's voice was thick with emotion. I always knew. From the moment you told me you were writing, I knew you'd do something special. I'm scared, I admitted. What if I can't do it? What if book 3 isn't good enough? Then you'll write book 4 and book 5. You're not that woman at the insurance company anymore, Elena. You're not the woman Andres told you weren't smart enough. You're a writer. Start believing it. That night I wrote 15 pages. The words came like water, like they'd been waiting for me to finally accept that I could do this. Chapter 6, The Engagement. Mateo called in August with news. Mom, I wanted you to hear this from me first. Isabella and I are getting married. I was at the supermarket, standing in the produce section with a bag of tomatoes in my hand. Mateo, that's wonderful. When did you propose? Last night. Took her to that restaurant I told you about, the one with the Michelin star. Had them hide the ring and the dessert, the whole thing. She said yes before she even found it. He laughed, happy and proud. I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. Have you set a date? That's the thing. We want to keep it simple. Just a courthouse ceremony next month, nothing fancy. Isabella isn't into big weddings, all that fuss and expense. We'd rather put the money toward a house. Next month? My chest tightened. That's very soon. When you know, right. We're doing it on a Tuesday afternoon. Just immediate family. We'll send you the details. Can I help with anything? A small reception maybe I could... No, we've got it covered. Like I said, keeping it simple. Just the ceremony and a dinner after. Isabella's parents are hosting at this place in La Moraleja. You'll love it. After we hung up, I stood there in the produce section, still holding those tomatoes while people moved around me. My son was getting married in a month, and I'd just been told about it like an afterthought. Not asked to help plan, not consulted about the date, just informed that it was happening. I put the tomatoes back and left the store without buying anything. The wedding was on a Tuesday afternoon in September, exactly 1 month later. I took the train to Madrid wearing the nicest dress I owned, navy blue, simple, elegant. The kind of dress that hopefully said mother of the groom without trying too hard. The ceremony was at a small courthouse in the city center. It took exactly 12 minutes. Mateo wore a charcoal suit. Isabella wore white silk, designer, of course, probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. Her parents looked exactly like I'd imagined, polished, wealthy, the kind of people who summered in Majorca and knew which fork to use for which course. I sat in the second row with Carmen, who'd insisted on coming with me. You're not doing this alone, she'd said firmly. Isabella's family filled the first 3 rows on her side. Her parents, her sister, 3 cousins, an aunt and uncle. They looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine spread about old Madrid money. On Mateo's side, it was just me and Carmen. The judge asked if anyone objected. The silence felt heavy. Then it was over. Mateo kissed his bride. Everyone clapped. I felt like I was watching it happen to someone else's son. The reception was at a restaurant in La Moraleja, one of Madrid's wealthiest neighborhoods. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, waiters, and black ties. The kind of place where you weren't sure which bread plate was yours. I sat at the end of one of the tables. Carmen beside me, thank God. Isabella's sister was across from us talking to her cousin about a ski trip they were planning to Bacara Beret. So you're Mateo's mother, the sister said, eventually turning to me with polite interest. What do you do? I opened my mouth to answer, but Isabella appeared beside us before I could speak. This is Mateo's mom, she said brightly. Elena writes books as a hobby. Isn't that sweet? The sister smiled. Oh, how lovely. What kind of books? Mysteries, I said. Psychological thrillers, actually. How fun, I should pick one up sometime. What are they called? I hesitated. Something about the way she said fun, like I wrote coloring books, made me hesitate. The Anna series, by M.S. Castellano. Oh, I'll have to remember that. But she was already turning back to her cousin, back to conversations about ski resorts and summer houses. She never asked again, never looked up the books. I knew she wouldn't. I watched Matteo across the room laughing with Isabella's father, fitting seamlessly into this world of wealth and status. He looked happy. He looked like he belonged. And I looked like exactly what I was, a woman in a department store dress, sitting at the end of the table, practically invisible. I left before dessert, claiming I wasn't feeling well. Matteo walked me to the entrance. You okay, Mom? Just tired. It's been a long day. Thanks for coming. I know it wasn't a big thing, but it meant a lot to have you here. He hugged me, and for a moment he was my little boy again, the one who used to crawl into my lap when he was scared, who told me I was the smartest person in the world. Then he pulled away and went back to his new wife and her family and the life he was building that had less and less room for me in it. Carmen and I took a taxi back to the train station in silence. You okay? She asked finally. Isabella told her family I write books as a hobby. Carmen's jaw tightened. That girl doesn't deserve you. Neither does he, if he's going to let her talk about you like that. He didn't hear. He was talking business with Isabella's father. He should have been sitting next to his mother at his own wedding. I didn't argue. She was right. On the train back to Barcelona, I opened my laptop and worked on book 3. Anna was confronting someone who'd dismissed her, who'd underestimated her because of her age. The words came easily sharp and satisfying. Fiction was easier than real life. In fiction, people got what they deserved. Chapter 7, the bestseller. Lucia called in November with news that changed everything. Sit down, Elena. I'm already sitting. Good. Grupo Planeta wants book 3. They're offering 45,000 euros as an advance, plus a marketing budget. They want your books in airports, train stations, major retailers. They think you can be big. I couldn't breathe. 45,000 euros. And that's just the advance. Foreign rights audiobooks, we're talking 6 figures over the next 18 months if the book performs the way I think it will. And it will. I don't understand. Why me? Because you're good, Elena. Because women our age are tired of being invisible in fiction. Because you write characters that half the population can finally see themselves in. The market is ready for you. The question is, are you ready for the market? Book 3 is almost done. Maybe 3 more weeks. Perfect. Send it to me the day you finish. I'll shop it to Planeta immediately. Elena, this is going to change your life. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my laptop screen. 45,000 euros. More money than I'd made in 2 years at the insurance company. For writing. For doing what I loved. I called Matteo. I knew I shouldn't need his approval anymore. I knew I should have learned by now that he'd find a way to diminish it. But this felt big enough, real enough, that surely he'd have to see it. Surely he'd be proud. Mom, hey. What's up? I'm actually in the middle of something. Grupo Planeta wants to publish my next book. They're offering 45,000 euros. They want to put my books in airports, Matteo. Lucia says I could hit bestseller lists. Silence on the other end. Then wow, they're really going all in on this, huh? It's a major publisher, one of the biggest in Spain. Yeah, I've heard of them. His tone was strange flat. That's great, Mom. Really, at least it keeps you occupied. Better than sitting around the apartment all day, right? Keeps you occupied. Like I was doing crossword puzzles to pass the time. Matteo, this is a real career. I'm going to be in bookstores across Spain. I know. I'm happy for you. It's just... Look, I don't want to rain on your parade, but you know how fickle the book industry is, right? Today you're the hot new thing, tomorrow someone younger comes along. I just don't want you to get your hopes too high, you know? At your age, it's important to be realistic about these things. At your age. As if 59 was ancient. As if I should be grateful for whatever scraps of success came my way, instead of dreaming of more. I have to go, I said quietly. Wait, actually, I'm glad you called. I wanted to tell you Isabella and I bought a house in Pozuelo de Alarcón, right near her parents. 4 bedrooms, a garden, the whole thing. We're moving in next month. Matteo, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. We're really building something here, you know. Building a life. The kind of stable, successful life I always wanted. He paused. Anyway, I should run. Conference call in 5. But congrats on the book thing, Mom. That's different. Different. Not impressive, not amazing, not I'm so proud of you. Just different. I set down the phone and went back to work. Chapter 8. The Book Launch. La Sombra de la Verdad. The Shadow of Truth was published in March. Grupo Planeta did everything Lucia promised. Bookstore displays, airport kiosks in Madrid, Barcelona, Seville, online advertising, book blog reviews, radio interviews where I talked about Ana and why I wrote about older women. The first week, the book hit number 2,340 on Amazon Spain. The second week, it climbed to 487. The third week, it broke into the top 100 at number 52. I was in the supermarket when Lucia called. Elena, you did it. Bestseller. I was standing in front of the checkout counter and there was my book, right there on the impulse buy rack next to the magazines and candy bars. M.S. Castellano, The Shadow of Truth. What list? I asked, my voice barely working. El País, number 17, and USA Today picked you up too. International bestseller Elena. You're the real deal now. I stood there with a box of pasta in my hand, staring at my own book for sale in a supermarket. A woman reached past me and picked up a copy. Excuse me, she said. Have you read this? I've heard it's good. I couldn't speak, just shook my head. Well, I'm going to try it. My book club has been looking for something new. She added it to her basket and walked away, not knowing she'd just bought a book written by the woman standing next to her, the woman nobody saw. I bought a copy of my own book. It felt surreal paying for something I'd written, holding the physical proof that this was real. When I got home, I called Carmen first. Not Mateo, Carmen. I'm a bestseller, I said, and then I started crying. Elena, oh my God, which list? El País and USA Today. Lucia says I'm international now. Carmen screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I'm coming over right now. We're celebrating. I'm bringing champagne. She showed up 20 minutes later with a bottle of cava and tears streaming down her face. I knew it, she kept saying. I always knew you could do this. We drank the cava out of coffee mugs because I didn't own proper champagne glasses. We laughed and cried and looked at the book rankings on my laptop, watching the numbers climb in real time. Have you told Mateo? Carmen asked eventually. I shook my head. Not yet. Elena, I will. I wanted to enjoy it first. Without him making it smaller, Carmen finished. I nodded. I texted him that night. Just a simple message. Book 3 hit the bestseller list. El País and USA Today. He responded 3 days later. That's awesome, Mom. Sorry for the late reply, crazy week. We're renovating the kitchen. Marble countertops, the whole thing. Very expensive, but Isabella has great taste. Talk soon. No congratulations. No I'm proud of you. Just kitchen renovations. I put my phone away and opened the folder where I saved reader emails. There were hundreds now. Women telling me how Ana had changed their lives, how they felt seen for the first time in years, how my books had given them permission to take up space in the world again. These women saw me. They understood what I was trying to do. That was enough. It had to be enough. Chapter 9, The Money. My accountant called in June about quarterly taxes. Elena, we need to talk about estimated payments for next quarter. Your income has increased significantly. How significantly? You made 487,000 euros in the last 12 months. Between royalties, foreign rights sales, and the advance from Grupo Planeta. That's more than most doctors make. I had to sit down. 487,000 euros. In 1 year. From writing. More than I'd made in 10 years at the insurance company. Are you sure? I asked stupidly. I'm looking at the deposits right now. Grupo Planeta just paid out your advance. And your books are selling in 12 countries. Germany, France, Italy, the UK, the US. Elena, you're an international author now. This is real money. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, just staring at the wall. I'd spent my whole life worrying about money, rationing everything, choosing between buying new shoes or fixing the washing machine, putting off dental work because I couldn't afford it, living in a tiny apartment because that's all I could manage. And now I had nearly 500,000 euros in the bank. I could move, buy a bigger apartment, one with a real office, maybe even a balcony. I could travel. I could stop checking price tags at the supermarket. But I didn't do any of those things. Not yet. because part of me was still waiting for it all to disappear, for someone to tell me there'd been a mistake, that women like me didn't get to have this kind of success. Instead, I kept living in my small apartment and writing every day, because the writing was real, the writing was mine. Everything else still felt like a dream I might wake up from. Chapter 10, The Request. Mateo called in January, 4 months after his last text. "Mom, I need your help. A big favor." I was deep in Book 4, Chapter 9, a crucial scene where Anna confronts someone from her past. I saved the document already, feeling the familiar tug of obligation. What kind of favor? The bank is doing our annual charity gala. It's huge this year. We're raising money for children's literacy programs. I'm heading up the whole thing. Don Javier Santillana, the CEO, is going to be there. All the senior partners. This is my moment, Mom. If I pull this off, I'm looking at senior manager within a year. That sounds important. What do you need? Honestly, everything. Vendor coordination, seating arrangements, day of management. It's in 3 weeks and I'm drowning. Isabella's swamped with some huge campaign at work, and I thought, well, you're home anyway, right? I mean, you work from home. You can write anytime. This is time sensitive. I looked at my laptop. Chapter 9 unfinished. My deadline was in 2 months. Lucia had mentioned important meetings coming up, potential opportunities she wanted to discuss. Netflix was interested in adaptation rights. There was talk of an English translation deal. I have a deadline in 2 months, I said carefully. And Lucia has some meetings scheduled. 2 months is plenty of time, Mom. This is just 3 weeks. Come on, I really need you. This is my career we're talking about. This could change my whole trajectory at the bank. Don Javier is going to be watching everything. Please. The old pull was there, the familiar weight of his need heavier than my own. Of course, honey. What do you need me to do? Everything, honestly. Can you come up to Madrid tomorrow? I'll give you all the details. Vendor lists, budget spreadsheets, seating chart templates. You're so good at organizing this stuff. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table looking at the document still open on my screen. Chapter 9 could wait a day. 3 weeks wasn't that long. I'd finished Book 4 after the gala. Mateo needed me. For once, I could do something that made him see me as essential, as valuable. I should have known better. Chapter 11, The Preparation. The next 3 weeks were a blur of phone calls, spreadsheets, and stress. I took the train to Madrid and spent 6 hours in a conference room at Banco Santander, while Mateo downloaded everything onto me. Guest lists, vendor contacts, budget constraints, dietary restrictions, seating politics. Don Javier can't sit near the Fernandez family, there's bad blood there, and Isabella's parents need to be at the head table, obviously. And we need everything to look expensive, but we're on a tight budget, so you'll need to be creative. I took notes, my hand cramping from writing so fast. Then I went back to Barcelona and got to work. Week 1, I called florists about centerpiece options that looked luxurious, but cost less than what Mateo had budgeted. I coordinated with the caterer about menu restrictions, vegetarian options, gluten-free, kosher, halal. I created seating charts for 250 guests, moving names around like chess pieces until the politics worked. I confirmed the venue, the parking arrangements, the audio-visual setup. I followed up with the printing company about programs. I wrote 0 words of Book 4. Week 2, Lucia called. Elena, we need to talk about these meetings you keep rescheduling. Netflix is serious about adaptation rights. They have a production window opening up in June. This is time sensitive. Time sensitive meaning we could lose the opportunity if we don't move now. I know. I'm sorry. Just 3 more weeks. Family situation. After the gala, I'll be completely available. She sighed. The kind of sigh that said she'd had this conversation before with other clients who'd made the wrong choice. All right, but you're turning down significant interest here. 7 figures, Elena. They're talking 7 figures for the adaptation rights. I hope this family situation is worth it. I didn't ask what the Netflix offer was specifically. Didn't have time. Mateo was calling with another crisis. The caterer had questions about serving times, and could I just be the point person for all vendor communications, because he didn't have time for this level of detail. I wrote 0 words of Book 4. Week 3, Isabella stopped by my apartment while I was on the phone with the florist confirming delivery times. She let herself in. She had a key now, apparently. Mateo must have given her my spare. Still working on the gala stuff? She asked, setting down her Prada bag on my kitchen counter. I held up a finger 1 minute while I finished with the florist. "That's great," Isabella said when I hung up. "I mean, you're home all day anyway, right? It's not like you have a real office to go to or anything." I looked at her her designer clothes, her perfect hair, her casual dismissal of my life. "I have deadlines, Isabella, for my books." "Oh, right, your books." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's so sweet. Mateo appreciates this, you know. He's so stressed with the real work, the client stuff, the actual business. This really helps him out. It's nice that you can contribute something, even if it's just organization. The real work, as opposed to my books, which apparently weren't real work." She left before I could formulate a response. That night, Mateo called with another issue. The seating chart was wrong. I had the Anderson group at table 7, but they couldn't sit near the Williams family. There was some business rivalry I should have known about, but didn't. "Mom, I'm trying to write. Can this wait until tomorrow?" "Not really. I need to send the final chart to the venue by morning. It'll take you like 10 minutes to fix." I fixed the seating chart, sent it at midnight, climbed into bed exhausted. I had written 0 words of book 4 in 3 weeks. My publisher emailed, "Elena, we need the manuscript. Are you on track for the deadline?" I looked at chapter 9, still unfinished. 7 more chapters to go. 6 weeks until my deadline. The math wasn't working. I typed back, "Yes, almost done." I was lying. Chapter 12. The night before. The day before the gala, I took the train to Madrid and spent the entire day at Hotel Arts Barcelona coordinating the final setup, where the registration table would go, how the stage would be positioned, where to put the donation display that would show the running total of money raised. The event coordinator had questions every 15 minutes. Should the podium be centered or offset? What about the lighting, warm or cool? Do we need a spotlight for the auctioneer? I made decisions about things I didn't understand, hoping I was getting them right, knowing Mateo would blame me if anything went wrong. I got back to my hotel room at 8 that night, opened my laptop, stared at chapter 9. Nothing came. My brain was full of seating charts and vendor confirmations, and Mateo's voice saying this was really important for him. I hadn't written in 3 weeks, the longest gap since I'd started book 4. The deadline was 5 weeks away now, 7 chapters to go. I couldn't do this. I couldn't write a book and plan a gala and be the perfect mother who dropped everything when her son needed help. Something had to give. The venue coordinator called with another question about the bar setup. I answered it, closed my laptop without writing a word, and went to bed. I'd finish the book after the gala. I had to. Grupo Planeta was counting on me. Lucia was counting on me. My readers were counting on me. But right now, Mateo needed me more. Or at least that's what I told myself. The next morning, I woke up with a text from Mateo. "Mom, you're a lifesaver. Everything's going to be perfect. See you tonight. I put you at table 17, good view of the stage. Can't wait for you to see this all come together. Couldn't have done it without you." Table 17. Not at the head table with him and Isabella. Not even close to the front. All the way in the back. But I'd helped him. That was what mattered. Right, I got dressed in my simple black dress, the one I'd bought for his wedding. Did my makeup carefully, wanting to look nice for his big night. Took a taxi to the venue. When I arrived at 6, an hour before guests, Mateo was there with Isabella, both of them in formal wear. He looked sharp in his tuxedo. Important, like someone who belonged in rooms like this. "Mom," he kissed my cheek. "Everything looks perfect. You did an amazing job." Isabella's eyes swept over my dress once. She didn't say anything. Neither did Mateo. I was invisible again, even in my own small victory. The guests started arriving at 7. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, white roses in the centerpieces I'd chosen. It really did look perfect. Don Javier Santillana arrived with his wife. I recognized him from the photos Mateo had shown me. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of presence that made people pay attention. Mateo's entire future walking through the door. I found my seat, table 17 in the back. My place card said Elena Martinez, in elegant calligraphy. I sat down between an elderly couple I didn't know who talked to each other, and not to me. And I watched my son work the room, shaking hands, laughing at jokes, being the successful banker he'd always wanted to be. He looked happy. He looked like he belonged. And I looked like what I was, the woman who'd done all the work, sitting in the back, invisible. Chapter 13, The Gala Begins. Dinner was served at 8. A salad with goat cheese and candied walnuts that cost more per plate than I used to spend on groceries for a week. Then sea bass with saffron sauce, roasted vegetables, tiny portions arranged artfully on white china. I picked at my food, my stomach too tight with anxiety to eat. Everything had to go perfectly. The flowers had to stay fresh. The sound system had to work. The auction had to raise enough money to impress Don Javier. 3 weeks of my life had gone into this night. 3 weeks I should have spent writing. 3 weeks of phone calls and spreadsheets and logistics. It had to be worth it. From table 17, I watched Mateo at the head table. He was in his element, laughing with Don Javier, leaning in to hear something Isabella's father was saying. Isabella beside him, in a red Valentino gown that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her hand resting possessively on his arm. They looked perfect together, like a magazine spread about successful young couples in Madrid. Like everything Mateo had worked for had finally come together. I felt proud of him despite everything. Despite the dismissals and the distance and the way he'd let Isabella talk about my work like it was a cute hobby. He was my son. I'd raised him alone, worked myself to exhaustion to give him opportunities I never had. And here he was succeeding. Even if he couldn't see me anymore, I could still see him. The elderly woman next to me, Señora Castillo according to her place card, leaned over. "Are you at the bank?" she asked politely. "My son works here, Mateo Martinez. He organized tonight." "Oh, how lovely, you must be very proud." She smiled warmly. "What do you do?" I hesitated. In rooms like this, what I did seemed small, insignificant. "I write books," I said finally. "How wonderful. What kind? Mysteries, psychological thrillers." "Oh, I love a good mystery. Are you published?" "Yes, actually. 3 books so far. Working on the 4th. What's your name? I'll look you up." "MS Castellano." Her eyes widened. "Wait, you're MS Castellano, the woman who writes about Ana?" I nodded, surprised. "Oh my God." She grabbed her husband's arm. "Carlos, this is MS Castellano, the author I've been telling you about." Her husband looked at me with new interest. "You're the one who wrote The Shadow of Truth. Marta's been talking about that book for months. Says it's the best thing she's read in years." "My book club is obsessed with your series," Señora Castillo said, her whole face lighting up. "We meet every month and we've read all 3 of your books. Ana is incredible. She reminds me of my mother, sharp, clever, doesn't let anyone push her around. When's the 4th one coming out?" For the first time all evening, I felt seen. "It should be out next spring," I said, hoping it was true, hoping I could finish it after tonight. "I can't wait." The way you write about older women like we're still interesting, still capable of solving problems, it means everything to us. Most books treat women our age like we're furniture. We talked for the next 20 minutes about books and writing and her book club. She told me about how my books had sparked conversations among her friends about aging and invisibility and reclaiming power, how they'd started sharing their own stories, their own mysteries. "You've given voice to something a lot of us have been feeling," she said. "Thank you for that." I glanced toward the head table. Mateo was still deep in conversation with Don Javier, not even looking in my direction. He had no idea that the woman sitting in the back at table 17 had readers, had fans, had created something that mattered to people, but Señora Castillo knew, and that felt like its own small victory. Chapter 14, The Auction Begins. At 9:30, the auctioneer took the stage. A professional from Sotheby's Madrid, energetic and charismatic, the kind of person who could make people excited about opening their wallets. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have an extraordinary lineup of items tonight, and all proceeds go to children's literacy programs across Spain. Let's start the bidding." The first item was a private golf lesson with Banco Santander's CEO. The bidding started at €5,000 and quickly climbed. A man in the front bid 15,000. Another countered with 18. Finally, it sold for €22,000. The room applauded. Mateo was beaming. Next was a weekend at a villa in Ibiza with yacht access. That went for €35,000. Then a vintage wine collection, Rioja, from 1985, the year Mateo was born. €28,000. The numbers kept climbing. By the 7th item, the gala had already raised over €200,000. Don Javier was smiling, nodding approvingly. The other senior partners were impressed. I could see Mateo relaxing his shoulders, dropping from around his ears. This was going well. Better than well. This was the success he needed. Item after item sold. A week at a ski chalet in the Pyrenees. A private dinner prepared by a Michelin-starred chef. A luxury spa package. Every bid higher than the last. The money was pouring in. The cause was being served. Mateo's career was being made. I should have felt happy. I should have felt proud that I'd helped make this happen. Instead, I felt hollow, because in 3 weeks of planning this event, Mateo had never once asked about my book, never asked how the writing was going, never acknowledged that I'd sacrificed my deadline, turned down meetings with Netflix, postponed conversations with Lucia about opportunities that might never come again. He'd just assumed I had nothing better to do, that my time was his to use, because to him what I did wasn't real work. It was just something to keep me occupied. Chapter 15, The Moment. The auction was winding down. They'd raised over 400,000 euros. The auctioneer was thanking everyone for their generosity, preparing to close out the evening. Then Mateo stood up. He walked toward the stage with that confident swagger I recognized from his childhood, the walk he used when he was sure he was about to do something clever. He had that grin on his face, the one that meant he thought he was being funny. My chest tightened. Something was wrong. Something was about to happen. He took the microphone from the auctioneer, tapped it twice. The sound echoed through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "Before we close out, I have one more special item to auction." The room fell quiet, 250 faces turning toward him. "I'm going to auction off lunch with my wonderful mother." The words hit me like a physical blow. Time seemed to slow down. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Could feel every eye in the room searching for me, finding me at table 17 in the back. "She's right over there," Mateo continued, pointing directly at me. "My mom, Elena. She sits at home writing her little mystery novels. Maybe she'll even put you in one of her books." Scattered nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, my face carefully neutral. Years of practice at this. Years of Mateo saying things that cut without meaning to, of learning to hold still while people looked at me with pity. But this was different. This was public humiliation in front of 250 people. In front of Don Javier and the senior partners and all of Madrid's banking elite. My son was auctioning me off like I was a trinket. A joke item to end the evening. "Come on," Mateo said, still grinning. "Who wants to have lunch with my mom? Starting bid €1. Just €1 for lunch with Elena." Complete silence. Nobody was bidding. Nobody was laughing anymore. People were looking at each other uncomfortably, not sure if this was supposed to be funny or if they were witnessing something awful. I could feel their pity like a physical weight. Poor woman. Poor mother. Being humiliated by her own son in front of everyone. Senora Castillo beside me gasped softly. "What is he doing?" she whispered. I couldn't answer. My throat had closed completely. Isabella was at the head table smirking. Actually smirking like this was entertaining. Like watching my public humiliation was fun for her. Mateo kept trying. "Really nobody, not even for €1? Come on, she's a great conversationalist. Lots of stories about the old days in Barcelona. The old days. Like I was a relic. Like I was a museum piece to be pitied." The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. 15. I watched Mateo's smile start to falter, start to look uncertain. He'd expected people to play along. Expected someone to bid as a joke to rescue him from his own cruelty. Nobody did. I sat there at table 17, hands folded, face calm, while inside I was breaking into 1,000 pieces. This was what my son thought of me. This was how he saw me. Not as a best-selling author. Not as someone who'd sacrificed 3 weeks to make his gala perfect. Not as the mother who'd given up everything to raise him alone. Just someone worth €1. Someone whose company was a joke. And then a voice from the back of the ballroom, clear and calm. 850,000 euros. Chapter 16, The Stranger. The room went silent. Not the uncomfortable silence of before. This was different. This was the silence of shock. Every head turned toward the back of the room. A man stood up slowly, distinguished, maybe 52 years old, in a perfectly tailored dark suit. I'd never seen him before in my life. He started walking forward through the tables, his footsteps the only sound in the entire ballroom. Every eye followed him, including mine. Mateo's smile had frozen on his face. "I'm sorry, what, mate?" "I said 850,000 euros. The man's voice was calm, professional, absolutely certain. He didn't stop walking until he reached the front of the room until he was standing in the center where everyone could see him. "I'm Rafael Delgado," he said, not to Mateo but to the entire room. "Head of International Content Development for Amazon Prime Video Spain." A gasp went through the crowd. Several people pulled out their phones. Mateo had gone pale. "Amazon Prime, I don't understand." Rafael turned to address the room, not Mateo. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the ballroom. "For those who don't know this woman," he gestured toward me, "is M.S. Castellano, best-selling author of the Silent Witness series. Her books have sold over 500,000 copies across 12 countries. She's currently number 17 on El País bestseller list and number 32 on USA Today." Another gasp, louder this time. The woman from table 8 stood up. "Wait, you're M.S. Castellano. My entire book club is obsessed with you." A man from table 5. "I bought all 3 of your books for my mother. She says they're the best mysteries she's read in years." Senora Castillo beside me grabbed my hand and squeezed it. Rafael continued, his voice steady and professional. "Senorita Martinez, I've been trying to reach you for 2 months about a significant opportunity." He turned to look directly at me, his eyes kind. "We want to adapt the Silent Witness series, all 4 books, full production deal with Amazon Prime Video, Spanish and international markets. We're talking about a flagship series for our European programming." The room erupted. People talking phones out, taking photos. A woman at table 3 was frantically Googling my pen name. "Oh my God," someone said loudly. "She's actually famous. She's a real author." Rafael kept talking, his voice cutting through the noise. "When your agent, the excellent Lucia Vega, mentioned you were unavailable because you were helping family with a charity commitment, I did some research. Found out about your son's firm, this gala. I took a calculated risk that you'd be here tonight." He paused, looking around the room. "Senorita Martinez holds all the rights to her work. Without her approval, without her creative input, none of this moves forward. The deal we're discussing is worth tens of millions of euros over multiple seasons, but we have a limited production window. Every day we delay, we risk losing our slot." The auctioneer found his voice, stammering. That's the highest single donation of the entire evening." The room erupted in applause. Real applause, not the polite golf claps from earlier. People were standing, moving toward me, hands reaching out. "Can I take a photo with you?" "I didn't know you were local." "When is book 4 coming out? Will you sign my copy? I'll buy one right now if I have to." I sat there frozen, unable to process what was happening. Mateo was still at the microphone, his face white, his confident swagger completely gone. He looked like he'd been punched. Isabella had stopped smirking. She'd gone completely pale, her carefully applied makeup suddenly looking garish against her shocked face. And Don Javier was watching Mateo with an expression I recognized from my years in the corporate world. Disappointment. The kind that meant consequences. Chapter 17, The Recognition. People were crowding around me now, table 17, suddenly the center of attention. "I've read all your books," a woman said, breathless. "Anna is my hero. She's exactly my age, and she's brilliant." "My mother just turned 60, a younger man said. "Your books helped her through her divorce. She says Anna gave her permission to start over. You made me feel visible again." An older woman said, her eyes wet with tears. "Thank you. Thank you for writing us." Senora Castillo was beaming, holding my hand like we were old friends. "I told you," she said to her husband. "I told you these books were special." Through the crowd, I could see Mateo still standing at the microphone, watching this, finally seeing what I'd been trying to tell him for years. I wasn't just his mother who wrote little books to pass the time. I was an author. A successful one. Someone people recognized. Someone whose work mattered. Don Javier stood up from the head table, his movement cutting through the crowd like a knife. People stepped aside, instinctively making way for him. He walked directly to me. "Senorita Martinez," he said, his voice formal but warm. "I just learned that you're M.S. Castellano. My wife Carmen is an enormous fan of your work. She's read all 3 books, some of them twice. I had no idea that Mateo's mother was you." He glanced back toward Mateo, and his expression cooled noticeably. He never mentioned it. Those 5 words carried weight, accusation, judgment. My son hadn't told his boss that his mother was a best-selling author. Hadn't mentioned it because to him it wasn't worth mentioning. because what I did wasn't important, wasn't real. I use a pen name, I said quietly, trying to give Mateo an out he didn't deserve. It keeps my writing life separate from my personal life. Don Javier shook his head slowly. We would have been honored to have you at the head table. A best-selling author, an Amazon deal. This is remarkable, señorita. Truly remarkable. Remarkable. Mateo had called my work something to keep me occupied. Don Javier's wife appeared beside him, elegant in a silver gown. Señorita Martinez Bay, I can't believe it's you. I've been trying to get my book club to guess who you really are. We've read all your books. I finished The Shadow of Truth last month and immediately started it again. Ana is incredible. She glanced toward Mateo, her voice cooling to match her husband's. You've been sitting here all evening, and your son never told us. Never introduced you properly. Never mentioned that we had someone so accomplished in the room. The implication was clear. Mateo had failed. Not just as a son, but as a host, as an organizer, as someone who should have recognized value when it was sitting at table 17. Rafael appeared beside me, professional and focused. Señorita Martinez, perhaps we could find somewhere quieter to talk. I know this isn't the ideal time, but we really are on a deadline. If you're interested in discussing the adaptation, we should meet soon. I looked around the room one more time. At the people still wanting to talk to me, to shake my hand to tell me what my books meant to them. At Señora Castillo beaming with pride like she'd discovered me herself. At Isabella pale and silent at the head table, her smugness completely evaporated. At Don Javier watching Mateo with disappointment that would have professional consequences. And at Mateo himself standing alone at the microphone where he'd humiliated me, staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd always been a stranger to him, and he'd just never bothered to really look. Yes, I said to Rafael, standing up with as much dignity as I could manage. Let's talk about my books. Not my little mystery novels. Not my hobby. My books. I walked toward the exit with Rafael, my head held high past tables of people who were still clapping, still calling out to me. I walked past Mateo's table and I made myself look at him. He looked back, his face a mixture of shock and shame, and something that might have been the beginning of understanding. But I didn't stop, didn't slow down, didn't give him the chance to apologize or explain or make excuses. I just kept walking out of that ballroom, out of the role of invisible mother, out of the box he'd kept me in for so long. Chapter 18, The Conversation. Rafael and I found a quiet terrace outside the ballroom. The Barcelona night was cool, the city lights spreading out below us like a carpet of stars. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, Rafael said, pulling out a chair for me. But I've been trying to reach you through Lucia for weeks, and when she mentioned you were helping with your son's gala, I saw an opportunity I couldn't pass up. You were really here just to meet me. I was here because your books are exactly what we're looking for. Smart, sophisticated mysteries with a protagonist who reflects a huge demographic that television has ignored for too long. Women over 60 who are brilliant and capable and tired of being treated like they're invisible. He pulled out his phone, showed me a presentation deck. We're thinking 4 seasons, minimum 8 episodes each. We want to keep Ana at the center, no aging her down, no making her a sidekick to some younger detective. She's the star. We're in talks with Emma Suarez to play Ana. She's perfect for it, the right age, the gravitas, the intelligence. Emma Suarez, one of Spain's most respected actresses. We'd need the rights to books 1 through 4 with options on 5 and 6 if you write them. We'd want you as a creative consultant in the writer's room, making sure Ana stays true to who you created. This isn't just about buying your intellectual property, Señorita Martinez. We want you involved. I've never done anything like that before. Exactly. That's why we want you. You know Ana better than anyone. You understand these characters, this world. We need that authenticity. We talked for over an hour about production timelines, casting ideas, creative control, compensation packages. Rafael was professional, enthusiastic, and treated my work with a respect I'd rarely experienced. The initial offer would be around 12 million euros for 4 seasons, he said, plus consultant fees, plus bonuses if the show performs well, plus international residuals. We're talking about real money, Señorita Martinez. Life-changing money. 12 million euros. I'd spent my whole life worrying about making rent, about rationing my medication, about whether I could afford new shoes. And now someone was offering me 12 million euros for the stories I'd written in my small apartment in Gracia. I need to talk to Lucia, I said. My agent. I don't make decisions like this without her. Of course, here's my card. Have her call me Monday morning. But Elena, may I call you Elena? I nodded. Don't let what happened in there make you doubt yourself. What your son did was cruel and thoughtless. But look what came from it. 250 people now know who you are. Don Javier's wife is a fan. You have readers you didn't know existed. And you're about to become one of the most important voices in Spanish television. He stood up, shook my hand. You're not invisible, Elena. You never were. Some people just weren't looking. Chapter 19. The morning after, I took a taxi back to my hotel around midnight. Fell into bed with my mind racing, unable to sleep. My phone was buzzing constantly. 23 missed calls, 18 text messages. From Carmen, Elena, what happened? I'm seeing photos online. Call me. From Lucia. Why is Amazon calling me about you being at a gala? Call me immediately. From several readers who'd somehow found my number. Are you okay? We saw what your son did. That was horrible. And from Mateo, 7 calls. 5 texts. The most recent one sent at 11:47 p.m. Mom, please call me. I need to talk to you. I'm so sorry, please. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning I woke up at 9, made coffee in the tiny hotel room coffee maker, turned on my phone. 31 new messages. I called Carmen first. Elena, finally, what the hell happened last night? I told her everything. The auction, the humiliation, Raphael's bid, the revelation, Don Javier's reaction. Carmen was crying by the end. He auctioned you off for €1, his own mother, in front of 250 people. And then this Raphael guy bid almost €1 million, 850,000, for the charity, and then offered me 12 million for the TV rights. 12 million euros. Elena, do you understand what this means? It means I can finally afford good coffee. I tried to joke, but my voice broke. It means you never have to minimize yourself again. Ever. For anyone. Not even for Mateo. There was a knock at my hotel room door at 9:15. I looked through the peephole. Mateo. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, not his usual work clothes. His eyes were red. He looked like he hadn't slept. I opened the door. Didn't say anything. Just stepped back to let him in. He came inside, stood in the middle of my small hotel room, and for a long moment, he couldn't speak. Chapter 20. The Apology. Mom, he started, then stopped, started again. Don Javier pulled me aside after you left. I sat down on the edge of the bed, waited. He asked me, Mateo's voice cracked. He asked me how I could speak about my own mother that way in front of clients, in front of everyone. He said it showed poor judgment, poor character, that the way someone treats their family says everything about who they really are. He sat down heavily in the desk chair, his head in his hands. He told me that his wife is a huge fan of your books, that she talks about them all the time, about how Anna made her feel seen after she retired. And I never knew, never had any idea because I never bothered to ask, never bothered to actually look at what you were doing. No, I said quietly. You didn't. Amazon Prime, 850,000 euros. Bestseller lists in multiple countries. And I called your work little mystery novels in front of everyone. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. I auctioned you off for €1 like you were nothing, like you were a joke. The tears started then running down his face. You gave up everything for me, Mom. You worked yourself to exhaustion to put me through university. You sacrificed your dreams your whole life so I could have opportunities. And when you finally did something for yourself, when you finally pursued your own dream, I treated it like it was nothing, like it didn't count because it wasn't what I do. I felt my own tears starting, but I blinked them back. I wasn't ready to comfort him yet. I'm so sorry, he said. I don't have an excuse. I was stupid and selfish and I hurt you in the worst possible way. I'm so sorry, Mom. The old instinct was there. The urge to smooth it over, to say it's okay, to make him feel better, to be the mother who fixed everything. But it wasn't okay. And I wasn't going to pretend it was. I love you, Mateo, I said carefully. I will always love you. But things have to change between us. He leaned forward, desperate. Anything. Tell me what you need. Please. I need you to stop expecting me to drop everything when you call. I have deadlines. I have meetings that matter. My work is real work, not something to fill my time. You're right. Absolutely right. I need you to actually listen when I talk about my work. Not just nod and change the subject to your life, to your career, to your problems. I need you to see me as more than just your mother. I will. I promise. And I need you to understand that I'm not just your mother. I'm Elena. I'm a writer. I have my own life that doesn't revolve around you. That shouldn't revolve around you. He nodded, wiping his eyes. I know. I see that now. I should have seen it all along. You have a chance to prove it, I said. But I'm done sacrificing myself to make your life easier. Those days are over. Can I fix this? His voice was small, young, like the boy he used to be. Can we fix this? We can try, I said. But you have to actually try, not just say you will. He nodded again, then hesitated. Isabella wanted to come too. She's really ashamed of how she treated you. She's been crying since last night. She can call me when she's ready, I said. But you came here first. That means something. I managed a small smile. Start by reading one of my books. Actually reading it, not skimming, not pretending. Read it and tell me what you think. I'll read all 4, he said immediately. I should have read them a long time ago. I should have been your biggest supporter instead of your biggest critic. Yes, I said. You should have. We sat there for a moment in silence. Then he stood up. I stood too. He hugged me, and it felt different this time. Like something had shifted between us. Like a boundary had been drawn, and we both understood it was there. I love you, Mom. I love you too. After he left, I sat back down on the bed and called Lucia. She answered on the first ring. Elena Martinez, what the hell happened last night? Rafael Delgado from Amazon has been calling me since 7 this morning. Something about a gala and an auction and you being there. I told her the whole story. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Your son auctioned you off for €1 in front of everyone. And then Rafael bid $850,000 for the charity, and then offered me $12 million for the TV deal. $12 million, Lucia repeated. Elena, do you understand what this means? This is the deal I've been trying to set up for months. Rafael's been interested, but he wanted to meet you first to make sure you were someone they could work with. And you impressed him so much that he bid almost €1 million just for the chance to talk to you. He said he wants me in the writer's room as a creative consultant. Of course he does. You're brilliant, Elena. Everyone sees it except you. And apparently your son, but that's his loss. Lucia, I haven't finished book 4. The deadline is in 5 weeks, and I'm 7 chapters behind because I spent 3 weeks planning that gala. So you need an extension. We'll get you one. Grupo Planeta will understand, especially when they hear about the Amazon deal. This is huge, Elena. This changes everything. After we hung up, I opened my laptop, looked at Chapter 9 still sitting there unfinished from 3 weeks ago. My publisher had emailed, Elena checking in on the manuscript. Everything okay? I wrote back, need 2 more weeks. Personal situation resolved. The story will be better for it. The response came within minutes. Take the time you need. We trust you. I opened Chapter 9 and started reading from the beginning, getting back into Anna's voice, remembering where I'd left her. And slowly the words started coming again. Chapter 21, The Resolution. 3 weeks later, I sent the completed manuscript to Lucia. She called me 30 minutes after receiving it. Elena, this is your best work yet. The last third especially, there's an emotional depth here that wasn't in the earlier books. What happened? I learned some things, I said. About boundaries, about self-worth, about not making myself smaller so other people can feel bigger. Well, whatever you learned, it shows. This is beautiful, Elena. Grupo Planeta is going to love it. The book El Último Testigo, The Last Witness, was published in March, 8 months after that night at the gala. It debuted at number 7 on El País bestseller list and number 12 on USA Today. The reviews were the strongest I'd ever received. Castellano has matured as a writer, one critic wrote. Anna feels more fully realized, more complex. This is no longer just a mystery series. This is literature. But the review that mattered most came from an unexpected source. Mateo called me on publication day. Mom, I finished it. Finished what? The Last Witness. I've been reading it all week. Couldn't put it down. You actually read it. All of it. Every word. His voice was thick with emotion. The scene where Anna confronts her son about how he's treated her, about how he never saw her as a full person. Mom, that was me. That was us. Wasn't it? Yes, I said quietly. It made me cry. I sat in my office and cried like a child because I saw myself and I hated what I saw. But I also saw you really saw you for the first time. The way you see people. The way you understand them. Your talent, Mom. You're not just a good writer. You're an exceptional writer. And I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it. Thank you, I said, my own voice breaking. I've read all 4 books now. Started with the first one and read them in order. And Mom, they're incredible. Anna she's you, isn't she? The way she refuses to be invisible, the way she solves problems, the way she's underestimated and then proves everyone wrong. That's you. A little bit, I admitted. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm so proud of you, Mom, and I'm sorry. We talked for another hour. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. About the books, about writing about Anna and where she might go next. He asked intelligent questions. He'd actually paid attention. It didn't erase the hurt. Didn't undo the years of dismissal and the public humiliation at the gala. But it was a start. Isabella called the next day. Elena, I owe you an apology. A huge one. Yes, I said simply. I was terrible to you. I treated your work like it was nothing, like you were nothing. And you're not. You're remarkable. I've been reading your books, Matteo insisted, and they're beautiful. And I was so wrong about you. Why did you do it? I asked. Why were you so cruel? She was quiet for a moment. Because I was scared. Matteo talked about you sometimes, about how you raised him alone, how you sacrificed everything for him. And I thought if he saw how amazing you were, he wouldn't need me anymore. So I made you smaller in his eyes. Made your accomplishments seem trivial. I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed. Thank you for being honest. Can we start over? Can I try to be the daughter-in-law you deserve? We can try, I said. Epilogue, 1 year later. The premiere of El Silencio de Ana was held at the Callao Cinema in Madrid on a cool October evening. Red carpet, press photographers, television cameras. The surreal experience of watching actors I'd admired for years talking about playing characters I'd created. Emma Suarez, elegant in a black gown, pulled me aside before we went into the theater. I've been waiting my whole career to play someone like Anna, she said. Thank you for writing her. Thank you for insisting she stay 65, for not letting them age her down or push her to the side. This role means everything to me. You are Anna, I told her honestly, exactly how I imagined her. Raphael appeared with the rest of the Amazon team, ready to see your world come to life. Inside the theater, I sat between Carmen and Lucia. Matteo and Isabella were a few seats down. He'd asked if he could come, and I'd said yes. The lights dimmed. The screen filled with the opening shot, Barcelona at dawn, the Gothic Quarter, narrow streets, and old stone. Then Emma's face and that voice I'd heard in my head for years, finally real. My name is Ana Castellano. I'm 65 years old, and I'm about to solve a murder that the police have given up on. The theater erupted in applause. I watched my story unfold on a screen 40 feet high. Watched Ana Mayana be brilliant and sharp and utterly herself. Watched her refuse to be invisible. Matteo leaned over during a quiet moment. This is incredible, Mom. You did this. You created all of this. After the premiere, there was a reception. More champagne, more congratulations, more surreal conversations with famous people who wanted to talk about Ana. Don Javier and his wife Carmen were there. She'd become a friend over the past year, her book club reading everything I wrote. The show is perfect, she told me. Even better than I imagined. You must be so proud. I am, I said. And I meant it. I stepped out onto a balcony for a moment of quiet. The Madrid night was clear stars visible despite the city lights. Carmen found me there. You okay? I'm thinking about Andres. About all the years he told me I wasn't smart enough, wasn't good enough. I wish he could see this. He'd probably find a way to diminish it, Carmen said dryly. I laughed. You're right. He would. Elena, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I was 63 years old, a best-selling author with 5 published books and a 6th in progress, a television series based on my work. financial security I'd never dreamed of, respect from my peers, readers who loved my characters, and a son who was finally learning to see me. Yes, I said. I'm happy. For the first time in my life, I'm actually happy. We stood there together, my oldest friend and I, looking out at the city that had watched me transform from invisible to seen. What's next? Carmen asked. Book 6, Raphael wants to talk about extending the series, and Lucia mentioned something about an American publisher being interested. You're not going to slow down, are you? Why would I? I smiled. I spent 58 years being told I was too old, too late, not smart enough. Now I'm 63 and I'm just getting started. Inside, someone was calling my name. Time to go back to the party, to the celebration, to the life I'd built, word by word. But first I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the Madrid skyline. Posted it with a simple caption, from the woman who was auctioned for €1. Thank you for teaching me what I'm really worth. The comments poured in immediately. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Women my age, older, younger. Sharing their own stories of being dismissed, being invisible, being told they were too late, and then finding the courage to begin anyway. I read a few, my eyes filling with tears. You saved my life. You made me feel seen. Because of you, I started writing at 62. My first book comes out next month. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing us it's never too late. I'd spent most of my life invisible. Now thousands of people saw me, really saw me. But more importantly, I saw myself, and I finally understood what Señora Mendoza had meant all those years ago. You have a voice, Elena. She'd been right all along. Final scene. Before we left the premiere, Mateo pulled me aside. Mom, I have something for you. He handed me a small box. Inside was a bookmark, custom-made, engraved with words I recognized. You have a voice, Señora Mendoza. I asked you once about that teacher, he said, the one who told you that you could write. You mentioned her in an interview, and I remembered. I should have listened to her. I should have listened to you. I held the bookmark, my vision blurring with tears. Thank you, Mateo. No, Mom, thank you. For not giving up. For believing in yourself even when I didn't. For showing me that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. We hugged, and this time it felt complete, whole. We were going to be okay. Different than before, but maybe better. That night back in my apartment in Gracia, the same small apartment where I'd written those first terrible pages 5 years ago, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, opened a new document, Libro 7 Notas Docs, and I started typing. Anna had more stories to tell, and I was finally ready to listen. The end bed.